Hello and welcome back to Spirit Mom. Today at Spirit School, we're going to discuss elemental beings. We discussed spiritual beings, negative and positive, and there's actually like a middle tier there that can go into our minds and pop up thoughts. But what we didn't discuss is the spirits our minds can actually make. When we have a strong emotion, one way or the other, we make an elemental being. We make a negative being or we make a positive being. And these beings, so not only are, this is separate from vibrations, not only are we shooting out the vibrations that manifest and so on into our future, into the universe, we also create living beings out of powerful thoughts. Sometimes you can almost feel it when a really negative event or emotion happens. It's like it almost creates like an instant ghost, like an electrical charge on the area, which the electrical charge can do too, along with producing and birthing an elemental being. Now that being is going to stay with you for a little bit. It depends on how strong of a being you make. And it's going to cause havoc. It's going to be part of that negative, like when you start down a negative path, how it just gets worse and worse and worse, is because you think Olaf. If you have Disney Plus, there's an Olaf separate episode where he's walking around. It's not part of either of the movies. It's the Frozen franchise. And Olaf's walking around sneezing, going achoo, achoo. And every time he sneezes, he pops off a little extra little baby snowball mini character that walks around following him. And as he carries on, he ends up creating tons of them. So this is the same situation, except instead of a sneeze, it's a positive or a negative reaction that's going to create these out. Now, elements are something that you might have already heard of. We have the main ones, the fire, earth, air, water, plus the ether. But there is elements for each of the four elements. And then ether has tons of elements in it, but there's four main ones that you've probably heard of, with fire being the salamander and embodying that spirit of fire, that spirit of cleansing, of burning it all up, and of the creative powers. And the next being earth gnomes. Gnomes think earth. They're said to live under the earth. The seven dwarfs are said to embody them. They take care of Mother Nature, and they'll cause havoc on those that don't appreciate Mother Nature. And then air has the Silifs. So that's your griffins. Think fairies, flowers. We all love fairies, right? They're elemental beings of air. And they're probably the most appreciated ones. But next we have water nymphs, which are think the old sailor stories with the siren songs. And then some could even say they're mermaids, although others say mermaids are their own separate being. And the nymphs are a separate water element. So, and then that's embodying all the things of water, that's emotions, think astrology. The elements embody the same things no matter what section of spirituality or lens of spirituality you're looking at them through, which is great. And it can help you make sense of different things once you get to know them, because earth is stability, air is thinking. When you think of the spirit of a fairy, think Tinkerbell, like the fast moving but smart, all over the place, just talk, chatter, communication, but smart. And water's emotion and depth, and it can be beautiful. And I made a fire, so I always love fire. Fire is it's the creative power. It actually controls sexuality too. And earth stems right off of fire, because it creates, after what fire destroys, it picks up where fire left off, and then air picks up from there, and water picks up from there, and then into the ether, and then back into fire, and then we have a circle. But back to our elemental beings. In our minds, we as creator beings have the power to create our own elemental beings. We create these negative or positive things that follow us around. So when we have a really positive emotion, and you know how it can gives this positive high that is vibrations, but also a living being pops out to have birth in that moment. And they don't carry on forever with us. Now that's up for debate if they just fizzle out and go back into existence, or if they continue living forever but just move away from us, but they don't stay with us forever. They will carry on either dissolving back into the ether or just now having a life of their own away. So you wouldn't want to create too many negative ones, because I know vibrations stay alive forever. Those go on forever. But when it comes to things like elemental beings, we can more only hope to know and hope to learn as much as we possibly can. But the more we continue to raise our own consciousness level into fourth, fifth dimensional living, then we can all know for sure. Because other people study these, like psychics and mediums, and like the Rosicrucians study elements, like the elemental beings, and lots of ancient civilizations have studied them. But the Rosicrucians are great because they are more modern. They're still from like medieval England, but they're a more modern religion, considering when we're studying like ancient Egypt and the Hermetics, which came from that, and then a lot of that came from Atlantis, which is at least 12,000 years ago. That's an arguable date, but you know what I'm saying here. So the Rosicrucians is a very modern teaching for us, and they're still active today. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but allegedly if you want to become one of them, you have to meet them in the astral plane. Like you have to be able to astral project and be able to control, walk around there, and then they'll come meet you and you get to join the club. But until you can do that, you just have to study from the outside. But there's lots of information thanks to the internet and books, and it's all lovely, because we like to know when we've created a negative being that's following us around. And it's like we almost like subconsciously knew the devil and the angel on our shoulder. They're real, and we make them with our fiery emotions. That's why the centered path is the way, the middle path, because then we are just in thine own self, in a centered place. Like the previous episode I had about those elements that give you thoughts, positive, the negative and the positive. There is actual centered ones too. Like we are a polarized world where there's negative, positive, but there is things that live in the middle. There's middle things too, which like other higher beings, which are fantastic. So there is like, they all want the middle path. Other beings aren't just negative and positive, except for these elements that we're making from our own. They are negative and positive because they're lower base beings. And as we ascend up, we ascend into a bigger, broader middle space that is just our golden zone that we're going to want to be, to have a more balanced, centered life. Okay? Does that make sense? So we've talked about strong emotions before, so I just feel like I don't need to go on and on about how bad that is. This is just to bring you information that you know that the next time you're doing strong negative, strong positive, keep a feeling like, did I just make something? I call it like the porcupine feeling. Like when I get really, really upset, I can almost feel this like discharge of something coming off. And even when you're really, really happy, you get, like you do almost feel this like, boop, I just made something. So it's fascinating, I think. Tell me what you think below. Goodbye for now, people. Spirit Mom.